Hi there, LinkedIn family. Jonathan here from Some Talented People with the second episode in our How to Use Space series. And today we're going to look at, obviously, COVID-19 has, I think the best way we can say it is disrupt space. So we're going to get comments again from Niall, from Jane and from Guy and from me as to what impact COVID has had on our space. And again, if you leave comments and notes below the videos, so we can get a real discussion going amongst our various networks. So looking at COVID, let's have someone's view. So Guy.
Jonathan, let's look at the C19, and I'll break it into two parts if I may. Firstly, in terms of how it affected me, and then secondly, what I've seen in terms of chatting with clients and in the marketplace. Okay. With me, I initially gave it FOMO, and that was because I wasn't used to certain things happening around me, and I didn't have clarity, and I thought I was missing out on a lot of sort of opportunities, and there were so many different opportunities. So I actually had to pull back a while for 2 weeks or so and get some clarity, because it was a curveball, hit everyone. And then in terms of the market, I think a lot of staff now, a lot of individuals, their thinking has changed. They're starting to understand that during the past 8 months, and even moving forward, because I don't see COVID going away anytime soon, is them finding and getting used to their own company. You know, before they like to go out to a pub, a bar, a restaurant, or the opera, whatever. Now I think they've been conditioned in a certain way, and their habits have changed slightly to actually enjoy their own space. And I think that's what's going to be important moving forward. And where I'm talking from in South Africa, I think maybe 55% of the people have gone back to work. A lot prefer working from home because they got conditioned in new habit. And so I think going forward, COVID has had many upsides. We know that 80% of the people have got mental illnesses, depression, etc. And it'll take a while for that to actually move through the system and hopefully evaporate somewhere along the line. But it's the individuals now, I think, are a lot stronger.
Yeah.
In the main, and I get the feeling that a lot of leaders are have a lot more empathy and a lot more understanding. There are some pain in the asses out there, still control freaks, etc., and chain and command and all that sort of stuff. But that's my take. Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's fluidity in it, basically. Niall, what's your contribution?
Yeah, I think like you're looking at 2020. I mean, the obvious first thing to say is that we're now spending so much more time alone, and so I think when we come into any form of contact with other people, virtual, physical, and how we organise ourselves in that, it's just we need to reflect the fact that we are spending a huge amount of time alone or in virtual spaces as opposed to physical spaces. And so one of the things I've done and going into spaces, what I feel feels very natural to do if I'm going into a one-to-one dialogue is because I feel it myself. I feel this sense of I understand how you could say that we're stronger, but at the same time we shouldn't assume that. Like, a lot of people are very detrimentally impacted by the wider impacts of what's been happening, but absolutely also people in their family, or the feeling that it gives you of the wider sort of macro impact. So what I've tried to do, what I feel is natural, is to ask people how they are in a way I might not have done when I first enter a dialogue with someone, if it's one-to-one. And what would also be natural, I think there's a sense in which, like, it's what's happened this year, how we've adjusted this year, and then what we have to think about what that means for the future. And it probably does mean there's going to be a different future, which is more virtual. And we'll probably are going to do more things physically again in the future, but there may be it may settle that it is overall less physical and more virtual. I've also been doing a ton of mixes, so a lot of the virtual events I've been running have been kind of mixer orientated. So all those different ways that we might be able to meet people, whether informally, in not so organized ways or facilitated ways, all those physical ways we could meet before are not there at the moment. So I've been doing quite a lot of events which are kind of mix orientated, and one aspect of those sort of mixes is a more of a sort of supportive, allowing people to speak, like to share a bit more about how things are. So it's sort of more looking after each other type. But the other obvious thing is there's a huge amount of potential for creativity, whether that's ways to solve the problems that have been generated or new ways of doing things, because there's an adjusted world. So once you've made sure everyone's all right, there's that sort of sense in which you can create spaces that are more about how you find new creative ways to do things, how to address this new reality.
Sounds remarkable, and I think one of the things that comes across very strongly is that there's a TED talk called "The Power of Vulnerability." My posts are always very honest. You've been very honest, and the fact is that we're all feeling things, and we need something just to observe. Jane, what's your experience?
I think when it first all happened, the biggest impact was on my teenagers. For them socially it was a massive shift, and I kind of quite quickly kind of adjusted to being online. I was pretty used to it already. I was spinning quite a lot of plates, doing a lot of taxing, so actually going online I found much easier. I enjoyed, it was springtime, the garden was coming into bloom, and I had vegetables growing, and I'm really happy in my own company, and it really didn't affect me too much. I kind of found it quite a nice slower time. But I think for them, particularly taken away from their friends, and they spent a lot of time in their bedrooms, they weren't taken a lot, and it was very hard to sort of like, they don't want me right now, they want their mates, understandably. But again, we all adjusted, we settled into it, and then there was that time when we came out, and it was, they were suddenly going out a bit more, and I saw them out on their skateboards and go to the park, and it was like, phew. So as a mum, that was my big concern, was my kids. My own sort of part-time work in schools, I was able to take some time off, but now I go in again and I'm working, freelancing. Again, I host a number of creative online communities.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on episode 4. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. That's brilliant. I mean, from my perspective, so I go to the gym every day because I have to keep the right hand side of my body, the connections in my brain working, or it gets weaker and weaker. So I typically go to the gym every day for about 2 hours, about an hour and a half of exercise, and then steam and all the rest of it. And the gym's closed down. I've got a west-facing balcony on my flat, and I went sunbathing for 4 months, shuffling around, eating ice creams, not putting myself out in any way, tried to climb a flight of stairs, and almost fell over on my face. And so lockdown 1 went, I enjoyed it at the time, but bad mistake, no exercise. Lockdown 2, I'm in a 10-story block. I was going up and down flights of stairs. I built up to 15 sets of 10, and it took me an hour and a half to do that, but at the end of it was what I had. So yeah, space for me is it's about, for me, it was the compartmentalization of going to the gym, not being able to replicate that at home first time round, and that's what I learned. Okay, everyone, wave goodbye. Okay, fantastic episode. Short but sweet. Tomorrow, Niall, who's in the process of writing a book called Spaceman, will look at his interpretations and meanings for space, and then we'll throw it out for a discussion. So it should be exciting. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care.